What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Fantasy Cup running honestly not a particularly spicy team by my standards, with Giratina, Shadow Steelix with Thunderfang, and the new Force Palm Lucario. Now initially I wanted to run Drampa as I saw someone suggesting it as a complete wall to Giratina in this meta, but the truth is whilst Giratina is a very strong Pokemon, not many people have it. It was only available in research once and you do have to trade for it for the IVs to go down, so maybe people at a higher elo would have made more of an effort to get one, but a lot of lower elo players probably haven't got one, so I quickly realised that my initial team that was set up specifically to counter Giratina or Flygon save swaps just wasn't going to work at ace rank, so I kind of just threw something together that was reasonably safe along with Lucario, since of course it is a new toy to play with, and honestly it went very well. As it turns out, it was definitely the right call because I literally only saw one Giratina in my final battle of the day, but of course depending on what elo you're in they might be a lot more common. Anyways, Lucario was very fun to use with Force Palm, and I'm running Thunder Punch in close combat purely because I already had that moveset and I can't be bothered to use a bunch of TMs and play the roulette game there, so it worked out well for me anyway, so wasn't really disappointed that I had that moveset. And also, just quickly before we get into the question of the day, I have something to flex because I did a lucky trade today and I managed to get a Shlundo Lucario, which is very cool. Not really sure what I'm going to do with it. I don't have enough XLs to fully power it up, and also I don't really play in the Master League anyway, so it'd be kind of a waste, but maybe I'll body it and try and grind for those XLs at some point, but it's definitely not my priority. Also quickly, I want to give a shout out to DC and MGLJSP for their donations in my recent live stream. As well, DC requested a full Eevee evolution challenge in the future, and that's something I'm going to work towards. Unfortunately, it is 75k Stardust to double move any of the evolutions, so going to be a very expensive one. I also don't predict it's going to go particularly well, but I'm happy to do so. And actually tomorrow I'm going to be going to an Ordino nest. It is currently triple Stardust right now, so hopefully I can rake in the Stardust. I am well prepared this time. I've got tons of golden raspberries, so hopefully we can get a ton of dust and then just completely blow it all straight away on a bunch of evolutions, but I am working towards that. But anyways, with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. What would be your dream Shlundo Pokemon to have in Pokemon Go? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so heading into the first battle, Giratina into Azumarill, and from my experience anyways, Azumarill was by far the most common pick to see in the lead. We're going to go for a Shadow Ball straight away. We can outpace them even if they're running Ice Beam by one turn, and I'm not certain when the opponent will throw their first charge move. Typically they might try and overfarm here, but it's usually very common for them to throw their second charge move immediately, so I'm going to swap, catch the move onto my Shadow Steelix as they go for a play rough, and they come in with a Shadow Flygon. Now this is a little bit awkward for me. Of course, if I was running the Dragon Tail variant of Steelix, they probably wouldn't swap into their Flygon at all, but because they saw the Thunderfang as I swapped there, they knew it was very safe to come in, overfarm massively, go for a Scorching Sands, and I know they've also already got a Dragon Claw loaded, so I've got a lot of energy here. I'm going to throw, and the opponent actually hesitates. They don't throw straight away, and either that's because they're waiting to see what came in, or unfortunately for them, they did just start a lag. But at this point, I'm going to no shield here, and we just barely hang on. So the fact that they didn't get that mud shot through is very costly as a Shadow Ball takes out the Shadow Flygon. I'm now going to swap into Lucario, and this is also not a very good matchup, but the opponent going to swap into Azumarill, and because we're running Force Palm, we're actually able to Force Palm farm down the Azu, come out with back-to-back moves. Doesn't really matter because one close combat easily does the job. I'm able to take out the Turtonator, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there, and you can see, by the way, I was never intending to throw as they were going to make it to a charge move anyways, because if they did throw a charge move, I'd just safely shield, get another Force Palm through for free, and yeah, so it worked out very well for me. But into the next battle, of course, we see another Azumarill. This time they shield the first move, so I'm going to shield, and they're running Ice Beam. So again, we are just going to swap, make the catch, but this time, because we swapped on alignment there, they don't see the Thunderfang, and the opponent is going to stay in with that Azu, probably realizing at some point, maybe not the smartest idea because they are taking a lot of damage from those Thunderfangs. I know I can live an Ice Beam there. I actually don't really care that much about switch advantage because Lucario and Giratina with a shield advantage can absolutely go to town here. So I've put them into range where we can farm down with either Pokemon. I don't want to reveal the Lucario just yet, and they come in with a Registeel. So typically Registeel going to be running the Zap Cannon and Focus Blast combination, which are both moves resisted by Giratina, so there's no reason for me to shield. If they go for a Flash Cannon, then fair play, but it is just a Zap Cannon. We're now going to swap into Lucario, go for the Force Palm farm down, and Lucario, very easy to get Force Palm farm downs in this meta because there are a lot of Pokemon either weak to the Force Palm or even, as you've seen, up against Azumarill. In that lead matchup, I usually play it out so I get them low enough to go for a full farm down, and you can see once again Azu gonna come in, but it's gonna be straight out there as we go for the farm down to take that game. So GG to opponent there into next game, a bit of a core breaker for this team as you see a Whimsicott, but we are going to swap into our Shadow Steelix and catch the charge move. If the opponent does go for a Moonblast here, of course, that will be resisted, but unfortunately whether I'm running Thunderfang or Dragon Tail, both fast moves would be resisted, so they don't really have any reason to swap out of this matchup. They're going to go for a Seed Bomb there and then eventually swap into Escavalier. Now we're going straight for the Psychic Fangs here, and we're going to grab a shield. Honestly, I probably should have overfarmed as much as I could before throwing that charge move to at least bait like a Crunch or something. We wouldn't have made it to an Earthquake, but it doesn't matter as we grab a shield there. We can now full send the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball gonna be taking out the Escavalier. We also overfarmed just enough to throw before they make it to a Drill Run. If they're running Aerial Ace, then fair play, they would have got it off, but it also wouldn't do that much damage. Now they're gonna come back in with the Whimsicott. We're going for the Ominous Wind, grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and the fact they're shielding there kind of implies that maybe they're weak to the Giratina in the back, so I'm definitely going to use my shield here. Going to go for the Ominous Wind straight away, just get rid of the Whimsicott, and we are going to see a Azumarill in the back. So of course, if you don't see it in the lead, there's probably going to be one in the back. This, as we called it last time it was around, is pretty much just the Azumarill Cup. Going to go for a Shadow Ball there, going to deal big damage. The opponent can't go for a full farm down, so they do overfarm as much as they can, but it doesn't really matter. At this point, I was just going to come in with Lucario, go for a Thunder Punch, get the KO, but because we overfarm so much, just going to go for a Shadow Ball, shield up my Giratina, take out the Azumarill, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Galarian Weezing in the lead. So this seems like a bad lead, except for the fact that most Weezing, well, I mean, I didn't see too many of them, but the recommended moveset is probably going to be Sludge and Overheat, which are both resisted on the Giratina, but it doesn't really matter for me as they swap into Guzzlord. Guzzlord, one of the few walls to Giratina in this meta, but we can come in with Lucario, go for a Thunder Punch, grab a shield there, and then I'm going to overfarm, baiting like I got a potential Shadow Ball, because if I go for that Thunder Punch straight away, they can actually just let it go through and farm me down. But because of that threat of Shadow Ball, the opponent tries to take me out, but they throw on CMP, which is perfect for me. We can now come back in with the Giratina. I'm assuming Guzzlord probably was their hardest answer to the Giratina, so I'm not too worried about them catching. And now they swap into Carbink, and this is absolutely game over. Steelix completely walls it, going to be double resisting the Rock Throws and the Rock Sides and single resisting Moonblast. They're actually just going to go straight for a Rock Side here. You're going to see this does pathetic damage. Honestly, at this point, we've still got both our shields. I'm not really sure why the opponent is playing this out here, but I'm just going to commit to a full Psychic farm down, a Thunder Fangs farm down, and then go for a Psychic Fangs into the Weezing. That will be coming back in. At this point, I'm actually going to predict that they're going to try and swap and like snipe me or whatever. So going to go for that Psychic Fang straight away. This will, of course, KO the Weezing from this range. And I think the opponent has just Rage Quit at this point here. So we're going to take out the Weezing. We can just go for a Thunder Fang farm down. Hopefully the game hasn't completely lagged out. And yes, we can just go for the farm down, taking out the Carbink. And I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Lucario in the lead. So this is a very awkward matchup, mostly for Lucario here, just because we're dealing a lot of damage. I'm going to full send the Shadow Ball. They're pretty likely to shield, but this opponent doesn't shield, so I'm able to just fully one-shot Lucario there. And I feel like that probably is the right play. I'm now going to swap, catch the move onto my Shadow Steelix, and the opponent goes to the Moonblast once again, and they're going to swap into Empoleon. And this is kind of strange. Obviously, Empoleon now has access to Steel Wing, but the majority of the Empoleon that I saw today were running Waterfall, and I don't know, I guess depending on what they're sort of trying to counter, maybe Waterfall does make sense, but didn't really matter for me as we're able to snipe with Lucario, and the opponent's just going to concede the match there. But GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see a Shadow Flygon in the lead. So a bit of a tricky one, but I know that I can live the Dragon Claw. So I will just no-shield this. And again, just going to full send the Shadow Ball here. If I go for a bait and they call it, I'm not in a great position. So full sending it, and we are able to grab a shield. At this point, obviously just going to let Giratina go down. The opponent goes for the Dragon Claw. They get the KO. We can come in with our Lucario, and it looks like the opponent is lagging there. They're not able to get off a charge move, but they come in with a Fire Fang Marwile. So I'm going straight for close combat. Close combat, unfortunately, is shielded. We swap into our Steelix, and they've got a Alolan Doug trio in the back. And of all things that we could possibly lose to, I think I'm about to lose to a Doug trio. Now here, this is just so dumb. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking like, oh, Lucario, whilst, yes, we could go for a Force Palm farm down, we're also going to take a lot of damage from the sand attacks there. So I need to get them pretty low, but of course, I should have just gone for the Breaking Swipe, fish for a debuff there. Maybe could have got off one extra fast move in, and then maybe made it to a close combat. But unfortunately, that was not the case, and GG's to that opponent there. Well-deserved win with a very spicy pick. But into the next battle, we're going to see the opponent's going to say swap into a Shadow Alolan Sandslash. I am slightly slow to respond there, so they do make it to a draw run, but that's fine. They're going to come in with the Marwile. Honestly, maybe I should have just gone straight for a close combat there, because of course, they're going to be shielding, but if I went for it straight away, I'll debuff my defense, and that would allow less farm from the opponent. But it doesn't really matter, as I'm still going to outpace them, assuming they're running Play Rough here. So I'm going to go straight for the Shadow Ball. The opponent will be shielding that up, but that's fine with me. At this point, even if they bait, I should be able to outpace them to the ominous win. So I'm going to shield. The opponent is realizing they're not making it to another charge move. So we're going to swap into our Shadow Steelix. And the opponent clearly not running Hydro Pump as they throw straight away. Just going to be an Ice Beam. We've seen already that we can tank 2 Ice Beams here on the Shadow Steelix before they will be able to farm us down. I'm going to go for a Psychic Fangs here. Psychic Fangs not going to do a particularly large amount of damage, but I'm not going to throw a charge move here. Instead, going to force the opponent to throw their energy. And this is fine. This is game over now. We can come in with the Giratina, get the Shadow Claw farm down, go for the Shadow Ball into Marwile coming back in, and of course from this range it's going to be massive overkill, but it takes out the Marwile and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game we see Giratina into Azumarill. So once again, just going to play this out exactly the same here. I'm going to go for the Shadow Ball straight away, and then I will shield the first move and then try to catch the second move onto my Shadow Steelix. I will say that I was running Thunder Fang on my Steelix specifically for the Azumarill to try and bait it into switching into me, but unfortunately basically every Azu I saw was in the lead, so it didn't really make an awful lot of sense to have Thunder Fang on my Steelix, but at the end of the day, it's fine. We're going to swap into it here. That was actually slightly different because I did throw 2 charge moves before swapping out, but the opponent's going to come in with a Excadrill, which obviously not great for me. I'm going to go straight for a Psychic Fangs here. Honestly, I probably should have just not thrown a charge move and then tried to farm to a potential crunch, and maybe I would have grabbed a shield, but either way, they farm to back-to-back moves. Doesn't really matter because I can just come in with my Lucario and you're going to see this Force Palm. I mean, the damage hasn't registered yet, but when you do see it, it's going to be absolutely insane as 2 fast moves takes out the Excadrill there. The opponent's going to come back in with the Azu just to be farmed down once again, and they've actually got Galarian Weezing, so once again here, this would be an issue if they're running Play Rough or even Brutal Swing, but I don't expect they are, and they go for an Overheat. It's resisted damage, it also drops their attack, and at this point, just going to full send the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball goes unshielded, as the opponent probably thinking Lucario also is running Shadow Ball there, but either way, I'm able to take out the Weezing and take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game we see another Waterfall Empoleon, so a little bit strange there. I can outpace them to the first charge boost, so going to go for that Shadow Ball straight away. The opponent gonna no shield. They will just barely hang on and make it to another charge move as they get damage registration error, which is a bit unfortunate, but they go for a Hydro Cannon there, so I don't know, maybe that means they're running like Flash Cannon or Blizzard as a secondary charge move, but honestly, Hydro Cannon not going to do that much less damage than a neutral Drill Peck, so I mean, maybe predicting I might try and swap there and catch a move onto a different Pokemon. Either way, doesn't really make a difference here. We swap into our Shadow Steelix and we're able to bait out the Marwile, and this is going to be game over. We go for the Psychic Fangs there, and actually Shadow Steelix with Thunder Fang is pretty even into that Marwile. Of course, they used a shield. We can just come in, go for the Shadow Claw farm down. I'm going to go for a Shadow Ball here, and then by the time I swap into my Lucario, that will be game over, as Lucario going to double resist the Rock Throw damage. Of course, if they go for a Moonblast, that's going to do some pretty decent damage, so I'm just going to play it safe. They full send the Moonblast there, and then they realize it's going to be game over, so I'm just going for the full Force Palm farm down, taking out the Carbink, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Azumarill in the lead once again. So once again, just going to go straight for that Shadow Ball. You can see a little bit of lag there. I can't really tell if that bubble was their 5th bubble or their 6th bubble. Honestly, very difficult to tell watching this back in 2x speed. I think at the time I was able to recognize how many fast moves they'd thrown at that point. So because we landed the move there, gonna swap into the Shadow Steelix. And unfortunately, like in most cases, it's quite good to swap a turn early and get a fast move through. But unfortunately, because the opponent sees my Thunder Fang there, they recognize they can come in with a Turtonator, and this isn't that bad of a matchup, but we do drop their attack, and that's going to allow me to make it to a second Breaking Swipe, which is very unfortunate for the opponent, but yeah, it is what it is. We are now going to wait out the switch clock. I think Giratina is going to win CMP, so I'm going to throw the Ominous Wind straight away, and we do win CMP. And as well, they're at 100 energy, I believe, so there'd be no reason for them to go for an extra Incinerate there. So we're going to shield this up. Of course, this is my final shield. They're probably just going to go for another Dragon Pulse, so we swap into Lucario, and we're also able to get the fast move through. As they go for the Dragon Pulse, it's resisted damage. We get the Force Palm farm down, and again, going to go for a Force Palm farm down up against Azumarill, and they've got a Ferrothorn in the back. So of course, wouldn't really matter if it's running Blaze Kick or Close Combat. Either way, it's going to one-shot the Ferrothorn, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next game, we see Giratina into a Shadow Empoleon. So we are going to see that once again they are running Waterfall, but unfortunately there I lag by 1 turn, and we should have outpaced them. But now unfortunately this is a CMP tie which we lose, and because it's a Shadow Empoleon, actually that's going to do quite a lot of damage. So I end up shielding there, and I threw on CMP. I tried to go for an undercharge to maybe get a farm down, but it still took them out anyways. And at this point, this is not looking too good for us. We're going to go for a Psychic Fangs here. Psychic Fangs is going to drop their defense, but it's not going to help me that much. So we are going to no shield. The Focus Blast actually doesn't KO either, and that's probably worse for me because now Lucario can't come in and go for a full Force Palm farm down without obviously taking a charge move. So instead, we come in with the Giratina, again, assuming everything's going to be resisted. So I'm going to no shield this. I will swap into Lucario, but unfortunately I went for an extra Shadow Claw by mistake there, as my switch clock just barely wasn't up, and with a slight extra energy advantage with my Lucario, maybe we'd be in an okay position here, but we're going to farm up to the back-to-back Thunder Punches, and I will continue to overfarm here, making out like I do have a Shadow Ball on my Lucario. Here, this is so dumb. Of course, Close Combat, despite being resisted, does do slightly more damage, but because I went for that, they can go for a full Dragon Breath farm down. I'm thinking, yes, okay, it doesn't really matter. We've got the Shadow Ball loaded, but Shadow Ball doesn't get the KO there. If I just went for Thunder Punch there, the opponent would have been forced to throw a charge move to take us out, or they would have taken the damage from another Thunder Punch. We could have got the KO there, and of course, Registeel was reasonably low, and we were a Giratina. We're going to take 1 damage. We got a lot of HP from that Registeel there, so I should have been able to win that game. So definitely just a huge misplay. But into the next battle, we are going to see a Shadow Empoleon, and this time they were running Steel Wing, so I actually swapped into my Steelix. I can shield once, and probably the only time I actually shielded my Steelix there, because Thunder Fang does a lot of damage up against the Empoleon, and I would have won the 1 shield scenario if I just shielded once. But now they come in with a Shadow Dragonair, so bit strange to see a Dragonair coming into Steelix, but of course we are running Thunder Fang as the fast move, so it is resisted. But again, we get back-to-back Breaking Swipe debuffs, which is very frustrating for the opponent, and it means I can just come in with the Giratina, go for the Shadow Claw farm down, and let's see, the opponent's going to come in with an Azumarill. So at this point, we should be looking good. We're going to go straight for the Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball is going to do some decent damage, obviously not loads, Azumarill very bulky, and I'm just going to fire off the next charge move before they make it to their own. Ominous Wind is going to be no-shielded, and once again, we've put Azumarill into farm down range for my Lucario, despite being resisted damage. Force Palm just does so much damage in this matchup here. It doesn't matter, they're going to make it to a charge move, they're not making it to 2, and Empoleon is already in the yellow health range, I believe, so we can just go for the Force Palm farm down. Only 3 fast moves needed to take them out, and once again we can just fast move farm down the Azu to take that game. But GG's to opponent there. Internet, so you see Registeel in the lead. So of course, once again, going to assume that all charge moves are resisted. We're going to go for the Shadow Ball straight away. A lot of the time I did just go and full send the Shadow Ball. I don't think I can remember a scenario where I have baited with the Ominous Wind. We're going to no shield here. It is a Zap Cannon, that's fine. They get the debuff, so unfortunately I can't go for an Ominous Wind here, or at least I don't think it's going to KO, so we're going to go and full send the Shadow Ball once again. But we do take out the Registeel. They're going to come in with a Scissor. We're going to bank some energy, swap into Shadow Steelix, and we bait out another Water Waterfall and Polion, so I don't know if it is just better to run Waterfall in this meta, but either way, we go for a Psychic Fangs, not going to grab a shield, but they will have to throw a charge move to take us out, and Lucario, I'm pretty sure is going to resist every single charge move that Sizzle can throw, so going to be a complete wall to it here. We're going to come in, go for the Force Palm, farm down, and I'm not even going to need to throw a charge move here. I'm going to play it safe anyways, and I'm going to use my shield. Probably not the best play there, just because in case they go for like Night Slash and get several boosts, then it's not going to be that ideal, because Lucario doesn't tank resisted moves particularly well, especially when they're boosted. But either way, they don't even make it to another move there, so I'm able to get the Force Palm farm down once again, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into the next game, we see Flygon in the lead once again. So yeah, unfortunately Flygon is probably the most awkward Pokemon to deal with, but we do have coverage here. We can just go straight for a Shadow Ball, and because this is a non-Shadow that actually didn't do that much damage, but a Shadow Ball still gets the KO. Here, I probably should swap into my Steelix, but instead, we're going to go straight for Shadow Ball number 2. If they've got like a Fire-type Pokemon in the back, we might be in trouble, but we're going to come in with the Steelix, and the opponent has a Registeel, so this, unfortunately for the opponent, is just going to be hard counter City once that Flygon went down there. So just going to safely shield this up. The opponent goes for the Focus Blast, and they're just going to concede the match there. So GG's to opponent there. Into the next battle, we're going to see Giratina into Tapu Fini. Now, Tapu Fini, a little bit different to Azumarill, actually not that comfortable for the Giratina, especially since they do, of course, well, they can potentially be running the Nature's Madness there, which is going to be cheaper than the Play Rough that I used to run. Was it Play Rough? I actually can't remember. Doesn't really matter. Either way, going to shield this up here, and the opponent goes for a Surf Bait, so that's unfortunate. We're going to go for the Shadow Ball, and they should be able to make it to another charge move pretty soon, so I'm actually going to swap into my Steelix, and I actually just don't really care if they go for a Surf here. It's not going to KO. They won't be able to stay in and farm me down, but they swap into Lucario. Now, Steelix just barely hangs on, making it to a Psychic Fangs, and Psychic Fangs not going to do much damage, but it will allow me to go and farm them down, and it will be quite a comfortable farm down as well here. So, going to come in with the Giratina. Even if they bait, they're not going to make it to a Shadow Ball and a Power Up Punch, so we're just going to shield that. They full send the Shadow Ball, we get the farm down here, and they've got a Galarian Stunfisk in the back, so this is slightly awkward for me. If I can catch a Rock Slide, that's going to be double resisted, but if I'm not able to make that catch, then I might have just thrown the game away. But we have put them into range where Ominous Wind probably is going to KO. They should be reasonably energy dry. I think they're at like 10 mud shots, but I completely lost track of the energy on this Tapu Fini. They make it to a Surf, and despite being resisted, that does unfortunately take me out there. But GG's to that opponent there. Into next battle, we're going to see a Gardevoir in the lead, so of course, not great, but these Shadow Claws are chunking. Just going to go for an Ominous Wind, and this isn't a bait, of course. Ominous Wind would take them out here, and we're not making it to a Shadow Ball, so I think that is probably the only time where I went for Ominous Wind in the lead, and the opponent doesn't even make it to a charge move there. I think probably trying to commit to a Shadow Ball, but just narrowly missing out. Now they're going to come in with the Azumarill, and we're going straight for that Psychic Fangs. Now, I'm not certain what they're going to have in the back. We've already seen 2 Fairies, so I'm actually going to shield this, and then I'm going to stay in with my Steelix, go for the Psychic Fangs, and if they stay in, I think I can just go for a full Thunder Fang farm down, but they swap into Registeel, and again, unfortunately for them, this is going to be game over. I'm going to shield this, and the opponent is going to go for the Focus Bar straight away, and at this point, I think I should just be able to go for a full Force Palm farm down, but instead, I'm going to play it safe. There's no reason for me to commit to the farm down, and the opponent probably also, once again, just rage quitting at this point. We go for the Thunder Punch, taking out the Registeel, and yeah, when it lags like this, they probably have just quit the app or just stopped attacking. We can once again go for a full Force Palm farm down, taking out the Azumarill, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into the final battle of this video, we're going to see a Shadow Alolan Sandslash in the lead. So I'm going to swap into my Shadow Steelix. Obviously, this is not great. If I can align my Lucario, then that would be amazing, but it's very difficult to do so. But the opponent baits there. They're now going to swap into Azumarill. So this is the situation that I wanted, to bait out Azumarill with my Steelix. But of course, since they have chipped with the Ice Punch, it's not that great for us. But anyways, the opponent will be throwing a Charge Move as they go for an Ice Beam. And I'm not sure if I just miscounted here or if the opponent did throw straight away, but I'm just going to go for that Shadow Ball immediately. If they threw the Ice Beam straight away, I could have actually overfarmed slightly more than that, but I didn't. But they're going to swap into their Sandslash, and they are not able to swap out just yet. This is just going to be an Ice Punch, so I'm going to let it go through, but the opponent has their own Giratina Origin in the back, and this is not ideal. I should still grab a shield here, but they're actually going to get a huge Shadow Claw farm down up against my Lucario, and this is not great. Of course, we've got a shield advantage. I'm going to use my shield straight away, but the opponent actually full sends a Shadow Ball, and that that is completely unnecessary. They could have just gone straight Ominous Wind, honestly. By the time they make it to their third charge move, we're definitely going to be in range where Ominous Wind would KO, and they do make it to another charge move here. If they're at back-to-back, it's going to be a CMP tie, but I don't think they were there because they did waste their energy on the Shadow Ball, and Ominous Wind will be taking out the Giratina, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.